Good morning. We're here with Subhasish Mitra of Stanford, and he is one of our winners of the Technical Excellence Award for 2015, awarded here at TechCon. Welcome.
Thank you.
So you are one of 30 technologies that have won this award so far. It's quite a prestigious group.
Thank you. I'm honored.
That's great. Can you tell us a little bit about what your award was for?
Sure.
In layman's terms.
Sure. So, in general, so far as my research group at Stanford is concerned, we work on robust systems. And why do we work on robust systems? Because if you look at the future of electronic systems or computation in general, there are sort of three things that are happening, right? So, first of all, computing systems are everywhere, right? So,
Right.
From very large scale, into stuff inside your body, right? So, hey, when something is implanted inside your body, you want to make sure that that thing doesn't crash, right?
Right.
So that's where robustness comes in. The second aspect of electronic systems has to do with the fact, what I would call user experience. Many people would call it energy efficiency, how you can run it at, maybe without any battery or something like that and still keep your systems running. And the third aspect of electronic systems has to do with how we can expand the horizon of applications. So that's these are the three areas that I work on.
Okay.
Robustness, how you ensure robustness, how you achieve the next 1000x of performance of
Okay.
electronic systems, and how you make a big impact in emerging applications, for example, neurosciences.
Wow.
The specific reason that I got this award is for my work on robustness, especially how do you make sure that the designs that we deploy in everyday life, they are free of bugs. That was the citation for the award.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. You have been working with SRC for the past 10 years.
Right.
And how can you talk about the impact that relationship has had with you or with your students?
Right, absolutely. So first of all, I'm very thankful to SRC for funding my research. But I always say this thing that getting money to do the research is only one aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the big lever that SRC has is given all the member companies and all the mentors from the member companies,
Yes.
and that is really something unique about SRC. So for all the projects that I did, including SRC funded projects and even projects that were not funded by SRC, I was very fortunate that I was able to collaborate with various SRC member companies.
Yeah.
And what they did was they gave us access to things that would otherwise not be available.
Right.
For example, very advanced manufacturing processes for test chips that nobody in the world would have access to. Or since you talked about the Technical Excellence Award, and I told you this is about how to get rid of design bugs, for example, right? Which is absolutely critical to make any progress moving forward for electronic systems. When it comes to bugs, how do you test out that what kinds of bugs actually show up in real life? And we were very fortunate that multiple SRC companies actually opened up their bug databases, which are supposedly very secret and confidential, to me and my students, and that had an enormous impact on for our understanding of what the real problems are, and that's why I think we could actually nail down the problem, which a lot of researchers have been trying, and they have been scratching the surface.
Right. So you have access to an entire other layer of
Right.
information because of that.
Right, and that motivates us, that gives us insights into what might work and what might not work,
Yeah.
and so on. Or even if we have some ideas, in our case, I had the ideas ahead of time because I knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But access to those specific set of information helped reinforce
Right.
that we were going the right direction. And sure enough, quite a few SRC companies gave us access to actual buggy hardware. They're like, well, this was a bug that took us 6 months to figure out what was going on. Now show with your technology what would happen, and my
Right.
student could show that within seconds. Whatever would take weeks or months, he could just figure that out within seconds.
Wow.
Because we had that thinking that was reinforced by this the next level of information
Right.
that probably a lot of researchers do not have access to.
That's awesome. So do you see any difference in the students that are SRC students versus some of the other students that you work with?
So the trouble is in my group, as I said, that even for my projects that are not funded by SRC, I think the SRC member companies are quite plugged into what we do.
Okay, so you're all integrated.
So in some sense, my students, I think, have a different experience, I would say. But I do see, when I go to conferences and places like that, I do see, really smart students, and probably they could have been guided better, if probably they had the right kind of access to right kind of stuff. I clearly see that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, TechCon is a very student-centered conference. So as parting words, do you have any advice for students that we can share with them?
Well, what I would say, for the students, that pursue your own idea. And if your idea is good, how do you know that some idea is good? Here is a simple way to tell. And I can, say this from my experience, over several years now. There must be a big chunk of people that would tell you that this idea would never work. That's when you know that must be a good
That's
idea.
great.
Because if everybody thinks that idea will work, that means it's not a revolutionary idea.
Right.
It's just a very incremental idea, so obviously it will work. So you want to work on ideas.
Everybody thinks you're
a lot
crazy.
of people will say that, how could this possibly work?
That's terrific.
And you make that happen.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I really